have the good intentions. All right, we're going to start going over Bayanu Aqsam al-Kufr, clarification of the categories of blasphemy, and excerpt from As-Sirat Al-Mustaqim. So we're not going to do the whole book. We just want to review the rules of blasphemy here. We not too long ago went over Qawa'id Muhimma in some of our own lessons. So now we're going to go over this one, insha'Allah ta'ala. So let's go ahead and get started. Yani, we're going to read the Arabic. You can take the Arabic, insha'Allah ta'ala, anyone who's taking that, and we'll read the translation. And you can ask me any questions. If I know the answer, I'll answer you, insha'Allah. And yani, we want to benefit and review. May Allah amplify our benefits and guide us to the precious things. Ameen. So the author says, may Allah have mercy upon him. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Well, that's not there in the author's, in the original Sirat Al-Mustaqim, there's no basmala right there. The author says, Bayanu Aqsam al-Kufr, clarification of the divisions of blasphemy. So he says, Rahimahullah, Wa'alam ya akhi al-Muslim. Wa'alam ya akhi al-Muslim. No, oh, Muslim brother of mine. أن هناك اعتقادات وأفعالا وأقوالا, that there are creeds, activities, and sayings. So activity, that's a word choice. We usually say actions, just to switch the words up a little bit. أفعال, activities, doings, actions, وأقوالا, and sayings. تنقض الشهادتين, creeds, activities, and actions that invalidate the two shahadas, the two testifications of faith. وَتُوقِعُ فِي الْكُفْرِ, and they make one fall into blasphemy. Yani, they cause falling into blasphemy. How about that? And cause falling into blasphemy. They invalidate the two testifications of faith and cause falling into blasphemy. لأن الكفر ثلاثة أنواع, because blasphemy is of three types. كفر اعتقادي, blasphemous conviction. وكفر فعلي, blasphemous action. So change the word there. وكفر لفظي, and blasphemous expression. Okay. Yani, these three, what's the meaning behind this division here? Because the Sheikh's going to show us you can divide blasphemy in other ways too. There's another three types of blasphemy. What's the meaning of this division? And there's other ways also of dividing blasphemy. So the meaning of this division of blasphemy is to draw attention to the source of the blasphemy. What is actually generating the blasphemy? Yani, as opposed to the nature of the blasphemy, one might say. The nature of the blasphemy, like if it is stubbornness or sacrilege or denial or something else, then it's not the source. It's another way of looking at it. So these are the sources of the blasphemy in terms of from where the blasphemy is generated. Conviction in the heart, and action from the limbs, and expression. Conviction also is not the broadest word. Conviction is not the broadest word for the what's intended here. What's intended here is the blasphemy of the heart. Sheikh said in both spots here, i'tiqadat, convictions. What do we have here? Creeds, yes. Convictions, just switching the words up. What's a broader word? Blasphemy of the heart is broader than conviction because there's other kinds of blasphemy in the heart. besides what one might have as a conviction. Maybe a person has a blasphemous conviction in his heart, like he believes that God is a man, or has a shape, or the likes of those blasphemous convictions. But there could be something else in his heart that's blasphemy, that's not a conviction. He might have a blasphemous doubt. He might have obstinacy in his heart. His blasphemy in his heart is anad, obstinacy. Or other, if you want, emotions or feelings in the heart. Might also have a blasphemous decision, decides to blaspheme. So conviction is one aspect of what exists in the heart. And what the author means by blasphemous conviction or blasphemous creed, he means really the blasphemy of the heart broadly. You said I always had a question about the semantic of this word. Like you said, how does the doubt fall under the meaning of blasphemous conviction? Yeah, so it's like that. The doubt is not a conviction per se. What he means is the blasphemy of the heart, the cardial blasphemy or cardiac blasphemy. وذلك باتفاق المذاهب الأربعة. That is by the consensus of the four schools. You're welcome. And notice here, he didn't say by the consensus. He qualified the statement, the consensus of the four schools. Yeah, and then he said after that, as you know, وكذلك غير علماء المذاهب الأربعة. Similarly, other than these scholars of the four schools. So it's a consensus of the four schools, and others beyond the four schools have mentioned it. Does that mean it's a consensus? Well, as if he is saying not necessarily all the scholars mentioned it. Doesn't mean they disagree with it, but doesn't mean they mentioned it. And there were madhabs at the time of the other four, or yani before, maybe they didn't mention that. So, but as for the four standing madhabs, there's a consensus between them about this issue. كالنووي وابن المقري من الشافعية, like النووي and Ibn al-Muqri of the Shafi'is. وابن عابدين من الحنفية, Ibn Abidin of the Hanafis. والبهوتي من الحنابلة, من الحنابلة. Al-Buhuti of the Hanabila, that means the Hanbalis. I put it with an M, Hanbalis, because that's the proper pronunciation. Yes, if you spell it in Arabic letters, you're going to put a noon there. You'd say Hanbali, but there's iqlab. You're supposed to flip the noon into a meme here. Even outside of Quran, this is correct Arabic to flip the noon into a meme. To say Ahmad ibn Hanbal with iqlab, flipping the noon into a meme, is correct Arabic outside of Quran. Yani, when I say it's correct Arabic, means don't avoid it. Do it, actually. Don't not do it. So I'm going to spell it with an M. And Yani, we usually spell things with their pronunciations anyway, right? Like here, and Nawawi. Why there's an N there? Because that's what we say instead of an L there. But I'm going to put an N there. And Nawawi. That's why I'm going to put an M here. Hanbali. Al-Buhuti of the Hanbalis was Sheikh Muhammad Illaysh min al-Malikiyah. And Sheikh Muhammad Illaysh of the Malikis, وغيرهم, and others. فَلْيَنظُرْهَا مَنْ شَاءَ. So whoever wants, let him look into those books. And in some of the books, instead of saying blasphemous conviction, and also instead of saying blasphemy of the heart, they say blasphemous intention. In some books, they say apostasy is to commit blasphemy by intention or action or saying. So also when they say intention in that way, they mean blasphemy of the heart. So whoever wants, let him look into those books. If he sees blasphemy of intention, then he knows what it means. وكذلك غير علماء المذاهب الأربعة. Similarly, other than the scholars of the four schools, من المجتهدين, amongst the past mujtahids, الماضين, كالأوزاعي, like Al-Awza'i, others mentioned that. Similarly, other than the scholars of the four schools mentioned that. فإنه كان مجتهدا له مذهب كان يعمل به ثم انقرض أتباعه. He was a mujtahid, al-Awza'i. He had a school that was practiced, after which his followers died out, or if you want, went extinct. How does that happen? By people no longer learning the madhab and transmitting it. People are not attending the sessions of this madhab. Their numbers are not increasing. Their numbers are decreasing. Until the scholars of this madhab go extinct. So until today, 4 madhabs remain. There were more than 30. Now, all of that was an introduction. The author starts, blasphemous convictions. Al-kufru li'itiqadi makanuhu al-qalb. The blasphemous conviction, its place is the heart. Or, the place of the blasphemous conviction is the heart. كنفي صفة من صفات الله تعالى الواجبة له إجماعا. Like denying one of the attributes of Allah, the Exalted, that are necessary for him by consensus. Okay. كوجوده وكونه قادرا وكونه سميعا بصيرا. Such as his existence, his being powerful, hearing, and seeing. Okay. This is clear for you. Denying one of the attributes of Allah that are necessary for him by consensus. What's the very, very, very important thing you need to understand for this statement here? It's not the consensus that is the reason for the blasphemy. Here, it's not the consensus that is the reason for the blasphemy, if one were to deny these attributes. Rather, it is the definitive intellectual evidence that is the cause of the blasphemy in this case. Because by your sound mind, you can know that Allah exists and that He is powerful and hearing and seeing. Not seeing that in the Quran is not an excuse. Or not coming across a hadith about that is not an excuse. Okay, so it's not the consensus that is the reason for the blasphemy. And let's zoom in here about consensus. We're going to zoom into consensus here. Zoom out of the attributes, zoom into the consensus here. It's not a rule that a person blasphemes for breaching the consensus. Breaching the consensus has cases. Sometimes, always rather, except Okay, sometimes breaching the consensus is a major sin. I'm saying sometimes I just want to exclude the case of the qualified mujtahid who makes ijtihad, and his ijtihad is truly wrong, and despite what he arrived at, his saying does not prevent a consensus. There would be a consensus that his statement basically is kicked to the side for. So that means that's another way of saying what he's saying is against the consensus. But I'm not going to say that's major sin here. I never learned that it is. I didn't learn that it is or it isn't, but I'm not going to say that it is here. When I'm talking about breaching the consensus right now, I'm not talking about the case of an irregular ijtihad. So excluding that. So breaching the consensus is a major sin. It's not the rule that breaching the consensus is blasphemy. Rather, the rule goes to what's known in the religion by necessity. It doesn't go to the consensus, it goes to being known in the religion by necessity, along with being consensus. Because a case is either a case of consensus or not. If it's not a case of consensus, that means the scholar is different about it. If the scholar is different about a case, then we're not going to call someone a blasphemer for taking one saying over another. So there's no blasphemy in the realm of where they differed. So yes, the consensus, it does hang around the realm of blasphemy, but the blasphemy is not because of breaching the consensus. The blasphemy is going to be because of denying or contradicting what's known in the religion by necessity. That is a consensus. Sometimes something is not known in the religion by necessity, but it is a consensus. Like the prohibition of shaking hands with a woman, marriageable woman, without a barrier. That's haram by consensus. If someone believes it's not haram, we're not going to call him a kafir, because many people don't know the rule. They say it's not haram without desire when it's just innocent handshake, for example. There's no sin in their understanding. So that's against the consensus, but we're not going to call them blasphemers for this. So it should be clear for you that the consensus is not the catalyst for the blasphemy per se, or the trigger for the blasphemy. It does have something to do as part of the recipe, but what is the actual trigger for the blasphemy is it being known in the religion by necessity. Denying one of the attributes of Allah, the Exalted, that are necessarily known, or that are necessary for Him by consensus. Yani, here, that are mentally necessary for Him by consensus. Denying one of the attributes of Allah that are mentally necessary for Him by consensus. It's the denial of that mental necessity that's going to make you blaspheme here, not the consensus per se. Here, this necessary here refers to the mental necessity, as opposed to some other attributes that are attributes of Allah by consensus, but there's not a mental proof for them. The attribute of ayn and wajh and yad and istiwa, we cannot know those by our minds. So that the consensus alone is enough to make it blasphemy to deny them. Rather, here, you need to even know that those came in the Quran to blaspheme for denying those ones. So there's no mental judgment for those attributes. Therefore, there is the detail of knowing that they came in the Quran. As for these attributes that are necessary for him by consensus, means mentally necessary for him, It's not a condition to know that they came in the Quran, to blaspheme by denying them, such as his existence, yes, his being powerful, and hearing and seeing. So that's clear. Any questions so far?
So, mashallah, you repeated it many times, but I just wanted to get it straight. So you said that breaching the consensus, um, it's not that the mere breaching of the consensus is blasphemy.
Correct.
Rather it's what's known by necessity, that it's known by necessity
Yes. And
to be,
consensus. And it's by consensus.
and it's by consensus.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yani, the consensus part means it's correct 100%. So that's why consensus does have to be in the formula to commit blasphemy. If it's a matter of difference in opinion, means whatever is the saying that one is denying doesn't have for sure 100% is true. Shafi'i said something, Malik said something else. So someone denies what a Shafi'i said. He's not a blaspheme for denying what a Shafi'i said. When there's a consensus, though, that means it is 100% true. So being a consensus is part of the recipe for blasphemy, but it's not the only thing. Rather, if someone breaches the consensus in the sinful way, he's going to be outside of Ahlul Sunnah. Not a blasphemer per se, though. The consensus is what Ahlul Sunnah has in common. And outside of the consensus, being outside of the consensus is what all the deviant groups have in common. Among what they have in common. Some of those are blasphemers and some of them are not. Those who are outside of the consensus. The author says, أو اعتقاد أنه نور بمعنى الضوء. Says, it is also blasphemy to believe. So, okay, that's fine. What I'm going to say, though, like the Arabic says. Or believing that he is a light with the meaning of an illumination. قال الشيخ عبد الغني النابلسي. Sheikh Abdul Ghani al-Nabulusi said, من اعتقد أن الله ملأ السماوات والأرض أو أنه جسم قاعد فوق العرش فهو كافر وإن زعم أنه مسلم. Whoever believes that Allah fills the heavens and earth, or that he is a body sitting above the arsh, then he is a blasphemer even if he claimed that he was a Muslim. Okay, that's clear. The author says, Al-Kufr al-Fi'li. The blasphemous activity is so... okay. What did the Shaykh say here about blasphemous convictions? Look how short he is. How short he kept it here. In the summary of obligatory knowledge, he has more to say about blasphemous convictions before moving on to blasphemous actions. But the Shaykh has much more coming. Maybe he saved some of that for later, so not to be repetitious. Let's see. Al-Kufr al-Fi'li, the blasphemous activity, is كَإِلْقَاءِ الْمُصْحَفِ فِي الْقَاذُورَاتِ, like throwing a book of the Quran in the trash. Blasphemy. وَلَوْ لَمْ يَقْصِدِ الْإِسْتِخْفَافِ. Oh, قال Ibn Abidin. Ibn Abidin said here a very important statement to understand. وَلَوْ لَمْ يَقْصِدِ الْإِسْتِخْفَافِ, even if he did not intend sacrilege. That's a word I think we don't use a lot. Underused word. Sacrilege is blasphemy. The blasphemy of disrespect. So that's a kind. That's a species of blasphemy there. The istighfaf. The source of that species might spawn forth from your heart. In your mere heart, you have the sacrilege, or might come from your tongue, for example. Ibn Abidin's very important beneficial statement here, he said, وَلَوْ لَمْ يَقْصِدِ الْإِسْتِخْفَافِ, even if he did not intend sacrilege. لِأَنَّ فِعْلَهُ يَدُلُّ عَلَى الْإِسْتِخْفَافِ, because what he did is itself an indication of sacrilege. So he's saying, even if a person didn't intend disrespect, he blasphemes because it is disrespect. He actually committed disrespect. So what's the meaning of him not intending to disrespect? What he did is disrespect. This is very important. Why is it so important? Maybe it seems obvious to you, or maybe it seems elementary. Because someone's going to say, oh, excuse me, no disrespect, but, and then he's going to disrespect you. So this statement of Ibn Abidin makes it clear. Someone told me, subhanallah. Subhanallah. One person told me that she had a friend, and friend was very obese. She told me she insulted it. I can't even tell you what's the insult. That's the only thing that's making me stumble here. She insulted, it's supposed to be her friend, she insulted her friend and then said, I don't mean to be rude. So, when someone tells you a story like that, you're supposed to laugh and chuckle. So when they told me that story, I didn't laugh and chuckle. I said, that's rude. It is disrespectful. You didn't mean any disrespect. You disrespected the person. He said, oh, awraqi al-ulum al-shar'iyyah, or religious papers. In the trash. What if I took out in the trash here? Does that become confusing for you? It should not. Let's read. Like throwing a book of the Quran in the trash, Ibn Abidin said, even if he did not intend sacrilege, because what he did is itself an indication of sacrilege. Or religious papers. You could put ellipses there. As if I just want to follow the Arabic. Oh, أوراق العلوم الشرعية. The Arabic relies on your intelligence. The Arabic assumes you are intelligent enough to follow. So it doesn't put something in parentheses there. So I like to do that myself. Because I like to assume that a person is intelligent until he proves to me otherwise. Or religious papers, meaning throwing them in the trash. Or any paper that has one of the names of Allah the Exalted. أو أي ورقة عليها اسم من أسماء الله تعالى مع العلم بوجود الاسم فيها, while knowing of the presence of that name on it. Not while being oblivious, not knowing the name is there. That's not going to be blasphemy. Someone might throw away a dictionary, a phone book, or something else that has respectable names in there. If it doesn't occur to him at the time that it has respectable names, he doesn't blaspheme. That's how weak some people are in understanding the rules of blasphemy. He'd throw a book away, and then later on he would realize that there's a name of Allah in the book or another respectable name, and then be afraid that he committed blasphemy. Why? So blasphemy here. So that's why he said, مع العلم بوجود الاسم فيها. He qualified it while knowing of the presence of that name on it, not just merely throwing it without knowing. ومن علق شعار الكفر على نفسه فإن كان بنية التبرك أو التعظيم أو الاستحلال من غير ضرورة كان مرتدا. Whoever Furthermore, whoever hangs the symbols of blasphemy on himself without necessity, yani hang or attach somehow, then he didn't say he blasphemes. So rather, he qualified it. He said, then if, and there's condition there, if it were with the intention of seeking blessings or glorification or out of legitimating it or legitimizing it, then he would be an apostate. And what I could do is, if it makes the person understand more, I could actually, for example, number those. I just want to see what it looks like. I might put it back. If it were with the intention of seeking blessings, or for glorification, or out of legitimating it, then one would be an apostate. Furthermore, whoever hangs the symbols of blasphemy on himself without necessity, if any of these three were the case, if it were with the intention of seeking blessings, or for glorification, or out of legalizing it, then he would be an apostate. What's this necessity though? Sheikh Muhammad Sulaiman gave us an example, rahimahullah. He said, like, there's a checkpoint. If those people who control the checkpoint know that someone's a Muslim, they'll kill him. So a Muslim needs to go past this checkpoint, and so he put a cross around his neck to cross the checkpoint without being killed. So he didn't do it for blessings, he didn't do it to glorify it, he didn't do it to legitimate it or validate it. Then he doesn't commit blasphemy. And what's similar to that also, not a case of blasphemy, but a case of such necessity. Same thing. There's checkpoint, for example. If those who control the checkpoint discover that the one who's trying to cross is a Muslim, they'll kill him or something else. And there's a Muslimah. And if she goes through with her khimar, then they'll get her. So she takes off her khimar here, then this is not haram. So she can pass this checkpoint safely. This is not haram here. What do you think? It's fine with all the numbers, or the numbers make you happy? You tell, whichever one you tell me, I'll do it. Inshallah.
It looks good to me, Sheikh, with the numbers, mashallah.
Okay.
But that's just, I don't know what everybody else has to say.
Okay, we will leave the numbers then. Inshallah ta'ala. Yes, it looks organized. I think just as a visual will help it stick in a person's mind. Okay, so that's all the Shaykh has for the blasphemous actions here. And then he says blasphemous sayings. And then he's going to go on for a while here. And let's cover a little bit. He said, Al-Kufru al-Qawli, the blasphemous saying. كَمَنْ يَشْتِمُ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى بِقَوْلِهِ, like insulting Allah, the exalted. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الْكُفْرِ, we seek refuge with Allah from blasphemy by saying, أُخْتَ رَبِّكَ أَوْ إِبْنَ اللَّهِ, O daughter of your Lord, or O son of God. يقع الكفر هنا ولو لم يعتقد أن لله أختا أو ابنا. Blasphemy will occur in this case even if the person did not believe that Allah has a son, a daughter, or a son. So here the Shaykh told the difference in this paragraph between the blasphemous saying and the blasphemous conviction. They are not necessarily hand in hand. Here he's saying one might even say this blasphemy while his heart is devoid of it. His heart itself is devoid of it in terms of a conviction. But blasphemy will still occur. So then here the Shaykh, when he says this sentence here, يقع الكفر هنا ولو لم يعتقد أن لله أختا أو ابنا. He signals to the rule, which is that each category of blasphemy is independent of the other. One blasphemes for a blasphemy of the heart, even without speaking about it or acting on it. One blasphemes for a blasphemous word, even without believing in it or acting on it. One blasphemes for a blasphemous action, even without speaking on it or believing in it. Each one is independent of the other. Also, he gave two examples here. One of them, he said, for someone to say, Ukhta Rabbik, oh, sister of your Lord, oh, Ibn Allah, or oh, son of God. Okay, when it comes to someone saying, oh, son of God, this is familiar to you in terms of people saying it. But perhaps you find it strange that would someone say, oh, Ukht says daughter here, is sister. See? Would someone say, oh, sister of God? I mean, I never heard something like that personally. So you will notice that a number of the blasphemous cases in this book here are strange. And they are so strange that you might think that the sheikh was making them up just to give you examples of blasphemy. And he was not making them up just to give you examples of blasphemy. He was giving you blasphemy that silly people actually did. وَلَوْ نَادَى مُسْلِمٌ مُسْلِمًا والشيء بالشيء يذكر يعني على فكرة. Don't talk about any blasphemous case hypothetically. Don't bring up hypothetical cases of blasphemy. Just when you teach and when you ask, you teach about blasphemy. When you ask, just stick to real things. Don't make up stuff. Don't assume things, etc. Especially when you're asking. Especially when you're asking. The teacher might say something that didn't happen, but because he understands the rules of blasphemy, might give you a hypothetical case that really is blasphemy had it been true. But when you want to ask, don't ask about blasphemy that didn't happen. Rather, when that crosses your mind, throw it away. The devil is rubbing his palms, waiting for you now. The author says, وَلَوْ نَادَى مُسْلِمٌ مُسْلِمًا آخَرَ بِقَوْلِهِ يَا كَافِرْ إِلَى تَأْوِيلٍ. If a Muslim calls another Muslim by saying, oh, blasphemer, or oh, disbeliever, and he says, you kafir, it's like he's saying, you kafir, إِلَى تَأْوِيلٍ, without any ta'wil, كَفَرَ الْقَائِلِ, then the speaker blasphemes. What's the ta'wil? I'll explain in a moment. Why would the one who says this blaspheme? لِأَنَّهُ سَمَّى الْإِسْلَامَ كُفْرًا. Because he has named Islam or labeled Islam blasphemy. How about to say labeled here? Because he has labeled Islam as blasphemy. So what's this ta'wil here? Footnote, an explanation of the statement that saves him from falling into blasphemy. Not necessarily from falling into a sin, though. Such as meaning by saying, yeah, kafir, you act like a kafir. You are like a kafir, even if you can take the word act out. I could keep it, but I want to take it out for a moment. So what's the words he said? The words he said are, you blasphemer, yeah, kafir. The words he said are, you blasphemer, but what he means is, you are like a blasphemer. And this is a very important case. The Sheikh mentioning this case here, this is a very important case. Not simply for the exact scenario that's being discussed, but for the rule that it represents, or for the mode of speech that it represents, which is a metaphor. This is a metaphor here, when it's not blasphemy. When the statement, ya kafir, to a Muslim is not blasphemy, will be one of its reasons is that it's not blasphemy, is that it's a metaphor. Metaphor is When you make a comparison, so like, you're saying like, but you're not using the word like. You're just taking the word like out, but it's still a comparison. By removing the word like, you have amplified the comparison or intensified the comparison. If that's not clear for you, then I will make it clear for you, inshallah. Should be so clear for you. Because what would you think if someone said to another person, you pig, you dog? What? There's some people maybe they're going to think it's blasphemy. That's how poor their understanding of the rules of blasphemy is. Say, what? I'm not a pig. We need to ask about your situation here. It's not blasphemy. He's saying you are like a pig without saying like, though. And someone would say, what? Isn't that a lie? I'm going to say, no, it's not a lie. It's not a lie also. Rather, it's an insult. Oh, it's not a lie. I'm not a pig, because he's not saying you're a pig. He's saying you're sloppy. But he's insulting you. So he's not lying. So understanding language is very, very important. One of the things that's going to help you understand language is reading, literature. We're all busy, though. Some of us busy with the knowledge, busy teaching, busy with the dawah, etc. But if you are interested in improving your language skills, find some what's considered fine literature, has decent level, and then read it. And you might probably enjoy it too, even if you're not used to reading. It will enhance your comprehension of language in a way that a dictionary does not. Some people say, well, I looked in a dictionary. I looked in all the dictionaries. Well, any dictionary you want, I looked at all of them. I didn't find our saying. Doesn't mean I'm wrong, though, because even looking in a dictionary sometimes not enough. You need to understand the language. So what's going to help you there is being, as it's called, they say, well read. So calling him a kafir, meaning you act like a kafir, that's not blasphemy because it's a metaphor. And that's like when the Prophet ﷺ said, any woman who goes out perfumed so that the men would find her smell, then she's a zaniya. She's an adulteress. Is she really an adulteress just for going out perfumed? No, she's like one. That's a metaphor. And like that, sometimes you praise a person. You say, he's a mountain. He's an ocean. He's a lion. Sometimes you dispraise a person. And if that's a Muslim, you cannot dispraise him by calling him a kafir. That will, meaning he acts like one, then that's going to be a major sin, not blasphemy. And some people ask, someone said to a man, you're pregnant. What's the judgment? This is the same thing here. What means he's pregnant means like he's pregnant because his belly is big. It's not saying he's really pregnant, so that's why you need to understand language. Or someone will call a guy a girl. Say, you girl. Say, what? Let's call you sheikh. What he's saying is you're a sissy. He's not saying you're really a girl. Or he's saying you're soft or something like that. So the sheikh said, if a Muslim calls another Muslim by saying, oh, blasphemer, without any ta'wil, like a metaphor, the metaphor is the ta'wil, alternative interpretation of the statement. Or this speaker thinks that a major sin is blasphemy, and then a Muslim committed that major sin, so he thought he was a kafir, so he called him a kafir out of his confusion and ignorance. So he has a ta'wil. Now we're going to teach him and not judge him as a kafir. We're calling that Muslim a kafir. But how does it look then for someone to call him a kafir without a ta'wil? Like he's angry at him. He said, get away from me, you kafir. He didn't mean you act like a kafir. He meant to insult him, for example, in the worst way he could, or something like this. Then he blasphemes. The Sheikh said also blasphemes, or we can say also blaspheming is whoever says to the Muslim, "Oh Jew," or the likes of such expressions with the intention that he is not a Muslim. Well, what other intention could he mean by "Oh Jew"? He might mean, "Oh you who used to be a Jew." Don't the people sometimes call someone by what he used to be? That's why you need to understand language. Like, what if a person was in the army? He's retired now. You might say, "Hey, Sarge." Really, he's not in active duty anymore because of what he was. Or someone used to drink alcohol and you wanted to insult him, or used to smoke crack and you wanted to insult him. So you say, "Hey, crackhead." "Hey, alcoholic," meaning what he used to be, what he used to do. So, what if he called him a Jew because he used to be one? Then that's a major sin, not blasphemy. That's why the Sheikh said, with the intention that he's not a Muslim, not with another intention. أو أمثالها من العبارات بنية أنه ليس بمسلم إلا إذا قصد أنه يشبه اليهود فلا يكفر. However, we don't need however in parentheses here. Illa here means lacking. However, sometimes illa means lacking. A lot of times, not always except. A lot of times illa means lacking. لكن إذا قصد أنه يشبه اليهود فلا يكفر. However, if he intended that he resembles the Jews, then he does not blaspheme. So that's a second. If he called them a Jew, he called the Muslim a Jew, there's two ways he could mean this. If he used to be a Jew, he might mean, "Hey, you who used to be a Jew," then that's haram insult. Or if he acts like a Jew, then he would mean, "Hey, you who acts like a Jew." That's also a haram insult. Neither insult is blasphemy. Both of those are major sins. Wallahu a'lam. We'll stop there. Any question? So I'm going to highlight where we stopped at. We'll start here next week, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, Sayyidi.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sayyidi, you just mentioned a hadith about a woman that goes out perfumed. May you please explain that hadith and like the wording and with the interpretation?
Yeah, now I'm not recalling the Arabic without thinking. Any woman who goes out perfumed so that the men find her smell, فَهِيَ زَانِيَةٌ. And according to another narration, فَهِيَ كَذَا وَكَذَا. According to another narration, he said, "She's a such and such." In one version, he said, فَهِيَ زَانِيَةٌ. She's an adulteress. In another version, he said, فَهِيَ كَذَا وَكَذَا. She's a such and such. So it means like a zania. You're welcome. It's my honor.
So it's to find her perfume. What does he mean here? A prophet
to notice the smell of the perfume.
So
لِيَجِدُوا رِيحَهَا.
So that they would be seduced?
Yes, to seduce them. So they would notice her smell and then be enticed by her. Then she's a such and such.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, I have some people, when someone committed a blasphemy or say something like "God sit on the throne" or say something, and you consider them like they blaspheme and as a blasphemer. But some people argue that you don't know, you can't call them a blasphemer because you don't know if they had repented. I asked another sheikh, and they told me that, well, you didn't see that they repented. Can you perpetually call them?
Yeah, no, you have to. When it comes to the blasphemy, don't treat it like other sins. When it comes to other sins, you can assume he repented.
Okay, but
when it comes to blasphemy, you cannot assume he repented.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's yeah. So you have to at least have it from a trustworthy person that he repented, or
or himself, or even himself.
Okay, all right.
If he tells you, I came back to Islam, and you believe him, that's valid to treat him as a Muslim after that, except in the cases of marriage and inheritance.
Okay.
In the cases of marriage and inheritance, he comes and says, I am an heir. I deserve some of the inheritance. So the executor of the estate or of the will, he will say, I am the executor, and I know that you committed apostasy. So unless you say the shahada, you will not get a dime. If you say, well, I came back to Islam, I promise you, wallahi, says to you, that's fine. Maybe you did, but the rules are the rules. You say the shahada or you walk away. You're not getting anything because I knew you to be an apostate. He might say, this executor, he might say, I even believe you that you came back to Islam, but the rules are the rules. For inheritance and for marriage, we need to hear the shahada from someone that it's confirmed that he did commit apostasy, and we have not heard the shahada from him, even if we believed him that he came back to Islam.
Okay, so you have to make that like a sort of a qualifier for you to do that, right? So you can ask him, you just need to do it in front of me. Let me see.
Yeah, when it comes to the marriage and the inheritance.
Okay.
Yes. Yani, guy comes to you, he says, I want to marry your daughter. I want to marry your sister, for example. You say to him, why, you committed apostasy before. And then he says, yeah, what? That was a long time ago, Yani. We've been, Yani, going to the masjid together, everything. You say, okay, yeah, that's true. But I never actually heard you say the shahada. So you're going to say the shahada now, or you won't be able to marry her.
Okay. All right. Barakallahu fiik, Sheikh.
Ameen wa fiik.
شيخي عندي سؤال لو سمحت. So for when we're teaching a new person, I'm under the way that I learned is that we wouldn't, when we were giving the three categories, we wouldn't go into all these different examples. It's enough for us just to mention that there's three categories and maybe mention example 1 or 2, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted. I wanted to hear from you, because this is what I know, and it seems like sometimes they might give too much to somebody who's learning in the beginning, and this is something that could lead the person to be more confused.
Yes, or might not come back also. Yeah, be mindful of overloading the beginner. The scholar said the beginner does not tolerate details.
The scholar said that?
Yes. لا يتحمل.
لا يتحمل.
Yeah.
بارك الله فيكم شيخي.
آمين وفيكم.